Welcome to The Art of Leveraging. I'm Tiffanie Kellog with Asentiv, and I'm very excited to have somebody joining me from my local Tampa Bay. Warren, thank you so very much for joining us today.
Happy to be here. Thanks for hosting this.
So tell us a little bit about who you are. What is your company? What do you do?
Yep. So I'm Warren Fisher, and I started Manole Capital in 2015 after a 20-year career at Goldman Sachs Asset Management. At GSAM, I was responsible for financials and technology, or what I like to call fintech. And I brought that kind of fintech focus directly to Manole Capital. And we don't do healthcare or energy or materials or consumers. We just focus in on the emerging fintech space. And we're a boutique asset manager, like you said, right here in Tampa, Florida.
So tell me a little bit more about what is fintech?
Yep. So we define fintech as anything utilizing technology to improve an established process. Fairly broad definition of fintech. For some people, fintech might be an online bank. It could be, you go to a Bank of America or a Chase or a Citi local branch. A fintech version of that could be an online bank. That's not our version of fintech. Some people consider Bitcoin or Ethereum or digital currencies to be fintech related. Once again, that's not our version of fintech. It's something that I really developed well over 2 decades ago while I was at GSAM. And for me, it's really the exchanges, sitting in between a buyer and a seller, a network, if you will. For us, the quintessential fintech business are the payments businesses, names like Visa and MasterCard, and the merchant acquirers and payment processors who authorize, clear, and settle transactions. So they aren't taking credit risk like a traditional bank. They're just a network in between a buyer and a seller, or in this case, a good and a service transaction.
So what made you decide to kind of go off on your own with this super specific niche?
Yeah, so once again, I was covering this niche at Goldman. And when I launched Manole Capital, I decided, instead of being a generalist with kind of a mile wide and an inch deep, covering all 11 gig sectors, that's healthcare and energy and materials and utilities and consumer and discretionary and financials and tech, all these different groups, and really be 1 or 2 or 5 names deep. I said, I'm just going to focus in on my area of expertise, which is fintech. I've been covering it for over 25 years, and I'd rather be a mile deep and an inch wide. And so there's not a lot of boutique asset managers that just focus in on fintech, and those that do have a different version of fintech than us. And so we're really a niche player, capturing what we hope is an emerging classification or category in fintech.
Now, you say you've been working in fintech since even back 20 some years. How has the landscape of that as an investment changed? I can only imagine the massive growth and new things that have popped on the market that even 20 years ago were probably barely or not even there.
Yeah, so in my mind, the term fintech, people know it now. We didn't know it 20 plus years ago. No one had ever heard of it. At Goldman on the growth equity team, I was simply covering wonderful companies that had certain characteristics, companies with high barriers to entry, a moat around their franchise, like Warren Buffett likes to articulate, but companies with predictable, sustainable, recurring revenue, great balance sheets, generating free cash flow. And it didn't matter what classification they were put into. Only now, over the last maybe 5 or 10 years, do we have this term called fintech. And that's why it's really important for us to define what we view as fintech, because it's not traditional banking. It's not credit sensitive companies like banks or insurance companies. It's really, for us, the quintessential fintech businesses really are the transaction processors and the payment companies.
Awesome. And what made you decide to go out on your own?
Yep. So I worked, like I said, for GSAM for just shy of 20 years. and parted Goldman in 2012. And in that same year, 2013, actually, early 2013, joined Fortress Investments. Was only there for 12 to 18 months. And when that came to an end, I started managing my own money. And after a number of quarters of putting up good numbers and years of experience doing it, enough people came to me and said, hey, do me a favor, would you manage some of our money? And so I went ahead and started Manole Capital. I've got 3 kids, Maya, Noah, and Letzi, and Manole is just the first 2 letters of each of their names.
Oh, that's awesome.
Fisher Investments, Fisher Investments was already taken by Ken Fisher, so we went with Manole Capital. And it really just started with me managing not only my own money, but kind of friends and family. And it's blossomed to now 8 years later, we run separately managed accounts on Schwab and Ameritrade and Interactive Brokers and other TAMPs, turnkey asset management platforms. We run several SPVs or special purpose vehicles. And then we run our hedge fund, the Manole FinTech Fund, a commingled vehicle for dozens and dozens of clients.
Awesome. Well, speaking of clients, who do you find are the clients that you love to work with?
So we're really agnostic as to size of that client. For the hedge fund, they have to be accredited investors. So those who have a net worth over a certain amount. We are not a holistic financial advisor, right? My dad was a financial advisor, a stockbroker for 40 plus years, providing financial advice to his clients. That's not at all what we do. We're a one-trick pony. So we need our clients to be accredited, understanding kind of risk and reward, and they're coming to us specifically for fintech investments. So I'm not doing healthcare and energy and all those other sectors, just staying within my niche. And we're really looking for long-term investors. We're not looking for short-term traders. We buy companies for the long term. We're not market experts. We're bottoms-up fundamental analysts doing research on all of our individual companies. And that's all we've ever done. And so we want our investors, whether they're high net worth individuals, whether they're family offices, whether they're other financial advisors, they want access to the fintech space. We want to provide them access to that emerging category. So we're really agnostic as to the size of the client, as long as the client is a long-term investor, willing to give us enough time over a cycle. We're pleased to have them.
What's typically, and I know there's probably not a typical, but a cycle could usually run between what and what?
Yeah, so we're definitely in a cycle right now. We would argue that, really since the fourth quarter of 2018, you had a challenging market. Then you had a bit of an upcycle till we hit the first quarter of 2020 with COVID. And it was a very quick 33, 34-day recession. The market turned down, and 2021, 2020, we're in 2021, we're up. Last year, the market was down 18%. So it's kind of a roller coaster, but you can go back to the global financial crisis where, I think the bottom in the financial crisis was March of 2008. And then you had a number of very positive years, so a decade of up. Go back even further, you can go to the dot-com era of March of 2000, and you kind of saw a lot of the original tech companies falter, and then we had a big boom. So cycles are different lengths in size, but we're certainly dealing with a lot of stress in the market today. We had March was a big month for banking volatility, with the 16th largest bank in the country becoming the second largest bank failure ever, with Silicon Valley Bank. And now we're going through first quarter earnings. And, last year was a challenging year. As I said, the S&P was down 18%. So kind of where people are wondering where we are. Are we on the upslope? Are we on the downslope? And we don't get into those guessing games. That's not what we do. We try to understand how our companies will react in different environments by doing a lot of scenario testing. But, we're not macroeconomists. We're really bottoms up fundamental research analysts.
Gotcha. Now, so do you often work with other financial advisors that you kind of manage their clients' portfolio in the fintech space and then total separate for all the other stuff that you don't do?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we have family offices as clients. We have financial advisors as clients. And the best way to run through this example is to say, you're a financial advisor and you're at Merrill Lynch and you have 100 clients and $100 million in total assets. And you're representing that average client with $1 million. Now, financial advisors get to know their clients, understand their risk profile, what they want to generate in terms of a return, and might have an asset allocation for them. And we would be in the alternative bucket as well as the equity bucket potentially for them. And they might want to have, I'll pick a number, 50%, 60%, 45% in equity. And then of that equity mix, they might want to have access to fintech, since it's an emerging category of 3 or 5 or 4 or 7, whatever percent the financial advisor believes is best for that client. Well, we're one of a handful of fintech specific managers that we would hope that advisor would select. And they could come in and invest with us in a separately managed account into our hedge fund or into one of our special purpose vehicle funds. So, we have plenty of ways to get to us, but we're really, like I said earlier, a one-trick pony. And we hope an advisor would say, for this client of a certain age, they might want X% of their total net worth in fintech, whether it's 1 or 3 or 5%. And we just want to be that manager.
Excellent. So it sounds like, because we are here on the art of leveraging conversation. And so it sounds like you're able to easily leverage and work with financial advisors. Are there any other professions that you find that you partner well with?
Like I said, family offices are great for us. Advisors are great for us because we're not building out necessarily a relationship with their underlying client. They, like in this example, one financial advisor, $100 million, 100 clients. I don't need to know their 100 clients. I just have to explain to that financial advisor what it is that we do. And when he or she decides to put their client's money to work, we just want to be their fintech manager. And so, like I said, in terms of the investor, we're simply looking for clients, whether it's a financial advisor, a family office, a high net worth individual who have a long-term perspective, because we're not market timers. The ability to time the market, it cannot be done. And so, there'll be times where you're right. There'll be times when you're wrong. We just want to go ahead and manage money over a long term, and we feel like we can generate alpha and returns for clients over that long period of time.
Awesome. Excellent. Learning all kinds of new things today. Now, as you get your clients, how do they typically come to you? Other than the ones who are the financial advisors?
Yeah. So, financial advisors, it's their client. So we have to market ourselves to financial advisors. And it's not as easy as you would think to set up a relationship with a financial advisor. So we find that we can do that when they're independent. If they're working at a Raymond James or a Merrill Lynch or Morgan Stanley, and they're under a big wirehouse, it requires a lot of work to get the approval and the due diligence process kickstarted. And because we're a small manager, we often don't meet the certain asset thresholds for some of those bigger wirehouses. So we find that advisors that have gone independent are a great avenue for us. Family offices, once again, are a great avenue for us because they already know what their pie of investments is going to be, whether it's small cap equity large cap growth, alternative investments, real estate, fixed income, whatever it might be, they already have their allocation mix selected. And if they want access to fintech, we're one of a few managers that just focuses in on this space. So we do well with family offices. A lot of it is just word of mouth as we've continued to perform for our clients. And we do a lot of research that we put on our website, manolecapital.com. Little shameless plug for our website.
Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna splash that website up there.
Yeah. So yeah, we don't have any gates or walls up on our website. All of our proprietary research is open to the public, and we do a lot of thematic notes, some stock specific notes, some survey work on what Gen Z thinks about fintech. And, obviously we also do a quarterly newsletter that we put out there as well. So we hope that people go ahead and read it. And a lot of it is, like you said, just word of mouth.
Cool. Excellent. Yeah, I'm all about the word of mouth and the referrals. That's our goal at Asentiv. And we like to say a more amazing business and spectacular life. And so that leads me to a question of what is it you like to do for fun? Because I find, yes, we have this business, but what do you do when you're not working? I would assume it has something to do with those 3 children you mentioned earlier.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah. So my oldest is studying abroad this year. So last month we, for spring break, went and visited her in Spain. So that's a lot of fun. Like I said, I've got a daughter in college, a son in high school, and my youngest is in middle school. So we kind of run the gamut of schools, and their activities have become my activities. But between travel and their daily activities, that eats up a lot of my spare time.
I don't have children, but I have heard that about having children. Yeah. What do you like to do? What the kids like to do?
Exactly.
So what's your vision for the company in the next 5 years?
Yeah. So I like to say, if I hit the lottery tomorrow, I'm still going to do exactly what I'm doing today. I love what I do. I'm managing. We have all of my personal assets are invested in Manole Capital. So this is what I love to do. This is what I would be doing tomorrow. In 5 years from now, I hope to be doing the same exact thing. We have fairly open-ended capacity. And what I mean by that is right now we're under $100 million in total assets. But if miraculously tomorrow we were to have $500 million or $1 billion in assets, we can put that money to work in our current portfolio and really not move any of those individual names. Many of our names are very large in terms of their market cap or their size. In our long book, our average market cap is over $80 billion. So these are large cap, very liquid stocks. So if we were to get much, much larger, we could put that money to work in our existing portfolio, not move those names too much. And so we have really unlimited capacity. And so I hope to see you in 1, 3, and 5 years with our assets being significantly higher and us doing the same exact thing that we're doing today.
Awesome. And what does your team look like there?
So I am lucky to work with our COO. His name is Kurt Winslow. He's also here in Tampa. I worked with Kurt at Goldman and as well as at Fortress. So I've known him for over 20 years. Great guy. He handles all of our back office and technology and infrastructure and administration. We outsource a lot of product to experts. So obviously legal, fund administration, fund accounting, auditing, compliance. So a lot of items, instead of hiring someone to be a full-time employee, we've chosen to outsource to experts. And we feel like that's a better use of capital. Instead of hiring someone to become bigger for the sake of having more people, I'd rather hire someone who's an expert in a certain field and let them do what they're great at. And so it's a two-man shop. It is a real boutique. As of right now, we don't see a need to be bigger for the sake of being bigger.
Yeah, if it works to be bigger, yes. But if you've got it figured out, and I'm a huge fan of outsourcing to the experts,
Yeah.
That goes totally along with the idea of leveraging your time. Sometimes I'm coaching with clients and like, oh, I want to hire this person and this person. I'm like, you need 5 hours a week. Let the experts do it. You'll totally get your money's worth.
Yeah, and I'm in my offices right now. I work out of, I don't know, in Tampa, if you go over to eat ever once in a while at the Oxford Exchange, but upstairs at the Oxford Exchange is a shared office space called the Commerce Club. And I've been here for 7 or 8 years. This is one of their conference rooms. It's beautiful. It's a great place to kind of work out of. It's a mile or two from my house, so it gets me out of the house into an office setting. But it's very different from where and how I worked 10 and 20 years ago, where you had a physical office, your desk, your filing cabinet. I just don't need any of those, that paper anymore,
Right.
that chain to that desk. So I'm able to work out of a shared office space. It's very quiet. It's very nice. And, it's extremely price effective, let's just call it that, fiscally sound. And so instead of having corporate offices and huge rent on a monthly basis, shared office.
In that part of town
is
is expensive office space for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's just another way that we can be efficient and have a great working environment.
Awesome. Well, the last question I have for you as we begin to wrap up our interview, do you have any news, anything exciting happening coming up soon that you want to share with the viewing audience?
Yeah, well, each and every month it's a grind. Each and every day when you're an asset manager is a grind. It's all about generating performance for clients. We're pleased to see continued growth in our assets. We just did go ahead and put out 3 or 4 different pieces of research, proprietary research, which is on our website. We just filmed a great podcast with one of our clients, and we talked about maybe the collapse of Silicon Valley and what's going on with the banking crisis. So if anyone wants to listen to that 45-minute podcast as they're walking the dog, we think that came out great.
What's the name of your podcast?
It's not our podcast,
okay,
but you can get it. It's right up on our website. It's from the Biltmore family office. And, they do a great job of hitting some timely subjects. And we think it came out great. And we'd love for anyone kind of watching this to take a listen.
Awesome. What is that website one more time, please?
Ours is manolecapital.com, MANOLE Capital, CAPITAL.com.
Perfect. And I will include that in the show or the description down below, y'all, if you want to check it out. I want to say, Warren, thank you so very much for your time today to be our guest on The Art of Leveraging. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up?
This was great. Thanks for taking the time. I enjoyed it. And hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Yes. Happy networking, y'all.